Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, thank you very much for holding this most important hearing on transnational criminal organizations and, of course, fentanyl. And, Mr. Chairman, I want to ask also unanimous consent that Mr. Ivey and Mr. Goldman be permitted to sit with the subcommittee and question today's witnesses.
Without objection.
Again, Mr. Chairman, thank you for holding this most important hearing. We also need to dismantle fentanyl supply lines. The surging resources to conduct inbound inspections are badly needed. We need to work collaboratively to make sure that these seizures lead to arrests and prosecutions of those engaged in these illegal, dangerous businesses. And that's why I'm glad to hear about the department's recent successes in operations like Blue Lotus, the Four Horsemen, both of these that have seized nearly 10,000 pounds of fentanyl that were destined to go to our communities. And of course, these operations also resulted in almost 300 arrests. And I understand the department has used the intel from these successes to move to the next phase, which is to target and prevent other fentanyl from entering the United States. Hope our witnesses today will share about a little bit of information about the two new operations being moved ahead, which are Operation Artemis and Operation Rolling Wave. For today's witnesses from the White House, DEA, CBP, and Homeland Security Investigations, or SSI, I want to hear in your testimony about how the administration has been working to mitigate these threats to our country as well as to Main Street. We know transnational criminal organizations and the illicit supply of fentanyl are not new challenges. In fact, the number of fentanyl seizures began to increase in the summer of 2020 under the previous administration. And as you know, the threat of fentanyl does not begin or end at our southern border. We need to also improve our public health care response to this crisis and address the addiction plaguing our communities while providing support for those that are trying to recover from drug addiction. And of course, to tackle transnational criminal organizations and fentanyl, we can't just focus on seizures alone. We also need to go after their profits and supply chains. Again, let me repeat. We also need to go after their profits and supply chains. And I'm glad to hear that under this administration, Homeland Security Investigation has continued Operation Pelican Bones, which seeks to disrupt the financial tools used by transnational criminal organizations to launder money, as well as Operation Hydra, that goes after the precursors needed to create fentanyl, and of course, Operation Chain Breaker that targets the equipment needed to manufacture pills. Initiatives like these, gentlemen, to dismantle illicit networks and limit TCO's financial accesses are needed. Yet we also need to recognize that this is a global threat, a worldwide threat, and strong and collaborative partnerships with international partners are critical to dismantling transnational criminal organizations. And that's why this morning the chairman and I introduced the Bipartisan Cooperation on Combating Human Smuggling and Trafficking Act, which would direct Homeland Security Investigations to expand its transnational criminal investigative units. These vetted and trained units of foreign law enforcement work with HSI to investigate transnational criminal organizations, aiming to stop human smuggling and the flow of dangerous drugs before they reach our borders. I hope my colleagues across the aisle will continue to join me in calling for responsible action, like expanding these transnational criminal investigative units and putting more resources towards our ports of entry, instead of throwing around harmful rhetoric about invading Mexico, our second largest trading partner, and of course, a critical partner in fighting transnational crime. While I have focused primarily on the law enforcement action, we can take to dismantle transnational criminal organizations, we must also recognize that this isn't the only a border issue, it's also a public health care challenge. These criminals across the world seek to make record profits at the cost of lives, American lives, on Main Street. There is widespread untreated drug addiction in our streets, leading some individuals to consume dangerous substances that may be laced with fentanyl. Hope our witnesses today from the Office of National Drug Control Policy can speak also to the administration's strategy to reduce the demand for illicit drugs on our streets. Again, I want to thank our witnesses for taking time from your very busy schedules to talk to us today. I welcome your suggestions how we in Congress can help you better accomplish your job. Thank you very much, and I now turn it back to Chairman Higgins for today's proceedings.